Hi everyone and welcome. It is Karen here with you today. Today I am sharing with you a art journal page that I've created in my Large Dilutions journal with some images that have been designed by Tammy Klinger or Tambaramba and Laurie Lennox and her new art pack called Luna. So I'm starting off with some of Tammy's wallpapers here. So I've just got a page out of her new pack, which is called Smush, and I'm just going to glue that onto my page. So I've just ripped it up into some pieces so that I can pop into the background. Just a little bit on the right hand side of the page because I actually want to glue my girl over that part, and I didn't want to have Tammy's wallpapers underneath, so that's how come there's that bit of a gap there in the middle. But once I've got that dry, I've decided that I'm going to do some stenciling, and I've got out some of my old Dilutions paints that I've had forever and a day. It's a wonder they still work, but they do. And I've got a stencil here from the Crafters Workshop, and I'm just going to pounce some colour through with some sponges just to fill up those other gaps. And of course there still is going to be a lot of colour under my other girl when I glue her down, but I'll show you how I fix that in a minute. So as you can see, it looks a right hot mess at the moment. Lots of colour, and but otherwise it's pretty cool. It actually ends up pretty cool because it's all in underneath and it just creates the layers. So I've got this other stencil here from the Crafters Workshop, and I'm going to use some white paint. I think this one is a paper artsy one called Snowflake. And I've got this sponge and I'm just going to pounce it through the middle through there just to knock back some of that brightness that I've got going on, because I do actually want my girl to be the star at the show. So this is what I'm doing here. Just by toning it down a little bit. It's still all there, and all those other layers will come up through everything else, which looks really cool. So we'll be able to see that in a minute. So I'll just give it a quick dry, and now I've got my girl here, and I printed her out onto just some normal tissue paper, nothing fancy tissue paper, it's just tissue paper, and I've popped it through my printer. If you want to know how to do that, there is a video on my channel that will tell you how to print onto rice paper or tissue paper. So I've just glued her down with some matte gel medium, and I'm just going to cut out some other elements from Laurie's page. And then once I've done that, I've decided that I'm going to draw in her hair. And I actually grabbed out a Jane Davenport Mermaid marker and did the outline, and then I realised, well, hang on a minute, there's a whole bunch of other stuff I want to be able to do to this girl. I better use a permanent ink rather than a dye ink. So I've got out my P.H. Martin's Bombay India ink in a red violet, and that's what I've done there with her hair. So that looks pretty cool. So as I said, you can still see the wallpapers underneath and all the stenciling and everything underneath. Here comes the scary part. This is something I don't do very often, is that I've painted over the bits with black gesso, and now I've got a baby wipe and I'm going to rub back the paint so it leaves the pattern in the background. So that's a cool trick. It's not something I do very often, so there you go. So that makes a huge difference. So I'm just tidying up some of my edges a bit there. And again, you can still see some of the little bits peeking up through the layers in the artwork. So while that's getting dry, I've grabbed out my Posca paint pen so I can draw in some lines for her hair. Just some squiggly, there we go. That looks a little bit more cool. Yep, I'm liking that, and I'll probably put some more in after. But in the meantime, I'm going to start working on her face. So I'm just going to get some gesso here. I'm going to water that down, and I've got a little angled type brush here so that I can paint over the face. So even though I'm going over it with white gesso, it just means that everything that I put on over the top will have something a little bit more firmer to grab hold of too, because the gesso has a little bit of tooth in it. And because I've watered it down, it means that you can still see the stenciling and the patterns underneath coming up through her face. So that looks pretty cool too. So I've got out my very old gelato, what are they called? Gelatos. They're a wax crayon, I guess. And I'm just going to put some colour onto her face, and I've got some other purples and colours and other things here to blend it all in together. So my purple is, whoa, very purple, but it actually tones in pretty well in the end. So it's quite bright to begin with, and I'm thinking, oh, holy dooly, that was a bit much. Anyway, I've got this other purple now, which is a little bit lighter. So I'm just going to blend those other two in together. There we go, that's looking a bit better. Checking a message on my phone. There we go. And now I've got the skin coloured one again, and I'm going to come back in and go over the top and blend all those three colours in together. So yeah, so that's looking pretty cool. And just, of course, because it's water based, you can mop up around the edges. Oops, that was a bit much. Yep, with a baby wipe it does actually come off, so yeah, that's okay. You just have to put some more on, which is what I'm going to do in a minute. So I'm just going over some of these black lines, but then I decided, oh, it'd be easier just to draw them all back in later. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've got a white one here, so I'm just going to add in some highlights on her forehead, down the bridge of her nose, on her cheekbones, and a little bit on her chin. Add a little bit of pink to her cheeks, which you just saw me do, and mop up around these edges here, and that's looking a little better. I'm going to brighten up these cheeks, add a little bit more highlight into the bridge of her nose and onto her chin. Put some pink in on her lips. That looks pretty cool. Just blending just a little bit more with my finger around the edges because she was just looking a little bit blotchy. Wiping that off. And I've just got some more of my Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay ink in the red violet, and I'm just going to add in another layer over the top just to help brighten it up because, well, it just wasn't pink enough, and we all know that I like pink. Well, it's kind of purple really. It's a pinky purple colour. Okay, so while that's drying, I'm just going to grab out a white Posca pen and I'm going to colour in the whites of her eyes. That looks pretty cool. Get that bit dry, and then I'm going to give her two-toned eyes. So I've got a lavender and I've got a green here. These are paint pens from Jane Davenport. And I've also got another purple one here that I'm going to add some eyeshadow to. I'm just going to put the corners of her eyes in, just with a bit of skin coloured and pink paint pens. And I'll get those there dry, and then I'm going to go over my pencils, my eyes with some pencils. Duh. There we go. So that's what I just used some Prismacolor pencils there, just to tidy those up and make them a bit more interesting. So I was going to use a black pencil to go over my black lines, but then I decided to use this I don't know. It's a Tombow calligraphy lettering pen. I can't say it properly. It's probably one of the pens that Laurie used to draw these images. So I thought, well, I might as well use those and go over my black lines just to pop them back out again because they kind of disappeared under my gelato. So that's what I'm doing there. So I'm just putting in this eyebrow, and of course some of my gelato is coming off onto my pen, so that's a bit sad. So I'm trying to do her nose here. That didn't work, so I grabbed out a Posca, and yep, that looks pretty cool. So I'll do the circle, pop that up, and then we'll do the moon, and uh-oh, I smudged it. You can't really see it on the camera, but I did actually smudge it. So because it's still wet, I can wipe it off with a baby wipe, and yep, I managed to wipe off a whole heap of gelato as well. And then I drew the nose in, and I still didn't like it for the fact that it looked funny because of the way that I drew it, and also because I wiped off a heap of gelato. So I'm going to add some more of that in, but in the meantime I'm just going to do around the rest of the lines here while that bit there dries. So I'm just doing a little bit here on her neck, doing the necklace. That looks a bit better, and add some gelato back into the middle of her face there, a bit more white. I probably should have blended that a little bit better than what I did, but that's what we ended up with. Anyway, doesn't matter. Putting in some more of the eyelashes there, that looks pretty cool. So now with my paint pen, fixing up her nose, a little bit there on her lips, and voila, that looks much better. Pretty happy with that. Okay, so now I've got a purple mermaid marker. This is a Jane Davenport one, a dye based one. So I decided to add some of that in over the top of my pink because I thought it would look cool, and it does, in my opinion. And yeah, you can still see all the other layers and everything coming up underneath. It's really cool. So I've got a tealy coloured mermaid marker here just for the ruffles on her neck there. I've got a nice little water dot there on her forehead, so I'm just going to stick a star over the top of that to fix that. No one would ever know that it was there. I've got a star that I've cut out as well. These are part of Laurie's pack. You know, there's a variety of sheets in the art image packs, and this one's got quotes and stars and moons and all sorts of things in it. It's really cool. So I've got the quote here, wish upon a star, and I've just cut it out, but I didn't really cut it out very well, and it kind of is annoying me actually, but anyway, that's just how it worked out, and that's what it is. So I've got some stars there, and I've glued all that down. So while that glue's drying, I've just got some Stipilo pencil just to tidy up a little bit around the hair. There we go, that looks a little bit better. I'm going to grab a paintbrush and smoosh some of that Jane Davenport purple over that white just to take away the darkness. And then I'm going to get it dry and all the other little bits dry. Thought I'd cut that bit out, but obviously not. And then I've got a gold Posca pen here to write wish upon a star because I kind of got a little bit lost in amongst all that. I'm going to add some gold highlights into her hair, and I don't quite know when to stop, so I just doodle and doodle and doodle, and then we end up with very pretty gold streaky hair. But anyway, there we are. So I'm just about finished. There's not a real lot more to do. I'm just going to draw in some other white stars here, which because of the purple that's underneath them, which is a dye base, they will leach up through the white and turn purpley colour. Add in some silver dots here to make it a little bit more galaxy like, I guess, in her hair, and that's it. That's my page. So I'm really happy with how she turned out. I haven't used gelatos for like forever, but they're fun still, so don't forget about those in your stash. And that's it. So until next time, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.